Zero Fantasy Online, better known as ZFO, is the world's biggest VR game. And after grinding for 200 straight hours without a single break, our guy is finally on the verge of becoming the first player ever to hit the max level. His heart is racing because he's so close to achieving the one thing he's chased his whole life. No matter whether it was school, sports, or any other challenge, he always fell short of reaching the very top, but this time felt different. He just wanted to leave his mark on history. As he faces the final boss and prepares to claim his place as number one, a sudden pain strikes his chest. His vision begins to blur, darkness closes in, and before he can process what's happening, he dies. But instead of everything ending, he wakes up lying on the ground in a completely unfamiliar place. Confused, he hears shouting nearby and rushes toward the noise, only to find farmers being attacked by goblins that are destroying crops and beating villagers. The moment he sees them, he recognizes them instantly. These are monsters straight out of ZFO. The farmers desperately fight back with farming tools, but they don't stand a chance. The goblins are level 7, while the villagers are only level 1. As he takes in the situation, he realizes something incredible. He can feel his body, touch the ground, and experience everything as if it's real. That's when it hits him. He's been reincarnated into the world of ZFO itself. Excited, he opens his status window and discovers his new name is Alan. He's level 1, and his class hasn't been selected yet. Seeing his level, he can't help but wonder if fate has robbed him of first place once again, even after getting so close. A frightened farmer notices him and begs the adventurer for help. From their words, Alan quickly confirms that this world follows the same main storyline as the game, where adventurers battle against the Demon Lord's army. He calmly tells them to wait because he needs to choose a class first. That answer only makes the farmers panic more since a level 1 adventurer should be no stronger than they are. Even Alan knows they have a point. He's facing level 7 enemies, so a normal class won't solve anything. While scrolling through the class list, he spots Crafter, a class infamous in the game for being the ultimate trap choice because it could only use crafting skills. But now that the game world is reality, Alan realizes a certain mechanic might be far more powerful than anyone ever imagined. Without hesitation, he selects Crafter and immediately starts experimenting. Moments later, he successfully crafts an assault rifle with 35 attack power and a magazine holding 30 rounds. That's when everything clicks. As long as he fully understands an object structure, he can create it. Even knowledge from his previous life works here. All those years spent studying and filling his head with information suddenly become his greatest weapon. If understanding the design is enough, then even advanced machines are within reach. The farmers stare in disbelief at the strange weapon in his hands, unable to understand why anyone would willingly choose a class known as the worst in the world. Alan can't help but laugh after hearing that Crafter still has the same terrible reputation here. Then he raises the rifle, aims at the fire goblins, and opens fire. The monsters are eliminated almost instantly, leaving the farmers completely stunned. In a world limited to medieval technology, Alan can freely introduce modern inventions, turning the so-called trap class into something that feels completely broken. The villagers can barely believe that a level 1 adventurer just defeated multiple level 7 monsters with ease. After securing the area, Alan walks over to the farmers, crafts 2 more rifles on the spot, hands them over, and tells them to deal with the remaining monsters themselves. The farmers eagerly grab the rifles and can hardly believe Alan is giving away such incredible weapons for free. When they ask if he's really okay with it, Alan casually explains that a crafter can make as many weapons as needed, so it's no big deal. The villagers thank him, but one worried farmer raises a fair question. What if they accidentally shoot each other? To calm their fears, Alan reveals that he added a special restriction during crafting so the weapons can only harm monsters. To prove it, he suddenly fires at one of the farmers. But after realizing the bullet didn't hurt him at all, everyone immediately relaxes. With their worries gone, the farmers happily turn the weapons on the remaining fire goblins and finally get their revenge. Once the monsters are defeated, Alan levels up to level 2 and discovers another useful feature of the Crafter class. When someone defeats monsters using a weapon he created, part of the experience points are automatically shared back to him. Soon after, a bald farmer approaches and hands Alan a fire goblin magic stone as payment for his help. Magic stones contain a monster's sealed power and serve as a major source of income for adventurers, who exchange them for money at the Adventurers Guild. The guild then converts that magical energy into a resource used throughout society. Just as things begin to settle down, panic erupts once again as more villagers come running with terrible news. A boss-class monster has appeared. It's a level 13 Goblin Knight. The moment Alan sees it, he realizes this enemy is on a completely different level from the goblins they've faced so far. The farmers immediately open fire with their rifles, but the Goblin Knight walks through the barrage without a scratch. It even mocks them as if the attacks are nothing more than an annoyance. The farmers freeze in shock while the monster steadily closes the distance. Alan quickly understands they're in serious trouble. At his current level, he shouldn't be able to craft a weapon powerful enough to defeat something like this. As the Goblin Knight charges forward and the villagers begin retreating in fear, Alan remains calm. Looking at the magic stone he received earlier, he remembers that crafting can repair damaged items. If that's true, then the reverse should also be possible. Maybe crafted items can consume materials as part of the creation process. While narrowly dodging the monster's attack, Alan decides to test the theory. Using the magic stone as a crafting material, he creates something completely different. A rocket launcher with a staggering attack power of 525. The experiment succeeds, and Alan immediately realizes that using magic stones in crafting grants unique effects to the finished weapon. He even sacrifices the ammo capacity, limiting it to a single shot in exchange for overwhelming power. With the Goblin Knight still charging, Alan takes aim and fires. The impact is instant. The boss monster is defeated in a single attack, leaving everyone speechless. Thanks to the victory, Alan jumps all the way to level 4, an incredible achievement considering he just defeated a much stronger boss by himself. The farmers stare in disbelief because everything they knew about the crafter class says its creations should be weaker than ordinary weapons. Moments later, the rocket launcher vanishes because weapons made from magic stones automatically break once their stored magic is depleted. Alan notes this new limitation and realizes he'll need to master both normal crafting and magic crafting depending on the situation. Curious, one of the farmers asks if he's secretly from some famous clan, but Alan immediately shuts down the idea and introduces himself as nothing more than a rookie adventurer. And just like that, a completely unprecedented crafter is born. In a world locked in a brutal war against the Demon Lord's army, where chaos spreads across the land, the one person who may have the power to change everything isn't a legendary hero or mighty warrior, but a crafter. Having finally figured out the true mechanics of his class, Alan picks up the Goblin Knight's magic stone and looks toward the future with confidence. This time, he's convinced that nothing will stop him from becoming the first person in the world to reach level 999. Alan heads into the forest to test his crafting abilities, but his experiment quickly turns into a real battle when he encounters a level 20 rock golem. Confident in his weapons, he opens fire with his assault rifle, only to realize something is seriously wrong. Not only do the bullets barely affect the monster, but the golem also starts healing the damage. Alan is caught off guard as he discovers that this thing possesses both incredible defense and regeneration. Even after pushing his weapon's attack power as high as possible, relying on pure physical damage just isn't enough. Instead of panicking, Alan starts thinking outside the box. He decides to modify his rifle and adds a special slot through crafting. His theory is simple. If magic stones can be used as materials, then maybe they can also enhance weapons directly. To test it, he pulls out a golem magic stone he collected earlier and inserts it into the newly crafted slot. Instantly, the rifle's appearance changes, taking on a rocky texture while gaining a brand new effect called penetration, an ability that ignores physical defense. Just as the rock golem charges toward him, Alan dodges its attack and starts firing. This time, the results are completely different. The bullets pierce straight through the monster's defenses and bring it down with ease. Thanks to the victory, Alan reaches level 14, which he considers pretty good for what was supposed to be a simple test run. After the battle, the magic stone inside the weapon is consumed, but that's actually a huge advantage. Since the stone breaks instead of the weapon itself, Alan can simply replace the stone and keep using the gun. Then he picks up the rock golem's magic stone and almost immediately levels up again, reaching level 15. At first, it seems strange, but Alan quickly realizes where the extra experience came from. Ever since helping Shuran village, he has traveled to farming communities across the region and distributed crafted weapons to villagers. Whenever those weapons are used to defeat monsters, a portion of the experience is automatically returned to him. It's basically passive income, but for leveling. The villagers stay safer, local monster threats are reduced, and Alan keeps growing stronger without even needing to fight every battle himself. At this point, He's completely convinced that choosing the crafter class was the best decision he could have made. Meanwhile, at the Adventurers Guild headquarters, staff members are discussing a mysterious adventurer whose level has been skyrocketing at an unbelievable rate. One employee checks the records and is stunned to discover that this person went from level 4 to level 15 in only 4 days. The growth speed is so absurd that it shouldn't even be possible. Curious, they pull up the adventurer's information and are shocked to see the name Alan, with the class listed as crafter. That revelation leaves everyone speechless because a crafter should never be able to level up this quickly. One of the supervisors remembers seeing a strange battle report earlier and projects the recorded footage onto a magic crystal. The room watches as Alan completely overwhelms a level 20 rock golem using a bizarre weapon nobody recognizes. The sheer firepower leaves the guild staff stunned. Even though Alan is officially only level 15, the destructive power of his attacks looks closer to what a level 50 adventurer should be capable of, making it clear that this rookie crafter is already breaking every rule the world thought it understood. The guild staff are left stunned after analyzing Alan's performance because by all logic, crafted weapons should be far weaker than standard gear, yet his output completely breaks that rule. The in-charge admits he doesn't understand how it's possible, but he recognizes Alan as something beyond normal standards and immediately decides to report everything to the guild master, convinced that the vessel they've been searching for has finally appeared. Meanwhile, attention shifts back to Alan as he continues his journey, now standing in a harsh desert battlefield where a level 27 sandworm boss emerges from beneath the sands. The monster is unusual, having low defense but insane HP, making it the perfect test target for weapon scaling. The sandworm attacks, but Alan smoothly dodges and decides not to use his rocket launcher since it only allows a single shot and limits testing potential. Instead, he wants to push smaller weapons to their extreme using retrofitting. Using the rock golem magic stone he recently obtained, he crafts a handgun with an attack power of 12, 20, and 17 rounds, then further fuses it with another magic stone, boosting its power even more while adding a freezing effect. Confident in the setup, Alan notes that even if it doesn't one-shot the boss, the freeze effect will secure control. The sandworm rushes in, but the moment Alan fires, the bullet lands and the massive creature instantly freezes solid mid-attack. Without hesitation, Alan closes in and uses the handgun to shatter the frozen body, proving that even a small weapon, when enhanced properly, can annihilate a boss-level monster. This confirms once again that choosing the crafter class was absolutely the right decision. After collecting the sandworm's magic stone, Alan decides to return to town and convert some of his loot into cash. At the Adventurers Guild branch, he calmly places a large stack of magic stones on the counter and asks the receptionist to exchange them for money. The receptionist is shocked by the sheer quantity and asks him to wait while she confirms his identity. But the moment Alan says his name, her expression suddenly shifts into alarm and she quickly rushes off without explanation. Left confused, Alan stands there wondering what just triggered that reaction, but the situation escalates fast. Within moments, guild guards rush in, surrounding him completely and declaring that he is under suspicion. Alan tries to question what is going on, but before he can get any answers, they restrain him with chains and inform him that he will be taken to the guild headquarters for interrogation. Alan is escorted by knights straight into the Adventurers Guild headquarters, where the real heavyweights of the guild are already waiting in a tense meeting room. As he's brought in, the guards are ordered to release him, and the guild leaders quickly apologize for the rough handling, admitting they only did it because his leveling speed is way too abnormal to ignore. A black-haired guild leader calmly says they just needed to meet him in person, which makes Alan smirk a little as he calls it quite the welcome before asking what they want from him. Another guild member immediately steps in and starts interrogating him about the weapon he used, the gun. Alan replies without hesitation that he can explain it, but they probably wouldn't understand since it's based on technology that doesn't exist in this world. That answer makes a brown-haired guild member laugh, mocking him for talking big when he's just a crafter, and then questioning if the gun is even that impressive. Alan instantly realizes they're trying to provoke him into revealing information, so instead of playing along, he casually hands over the assault rifle he once gave to the farmers and tells them to test it as much as they want. The guild members are stunned when they examine it and see its stats, an attack power of 50, comparable to a knight-level fighter, and a 30-round capacity that should be impossible in this world's standards. Shock spreads across the room as they realize this is far beyond normal equipment, but Alan doesn't stick around to enjoy their reactions. He turns to leave, calmly saying his goal is to reach level 999, so he doesn't have time to waste. One guild member suddenly stops him and asks if his ultimate goal is to defeat the Demon King, and Alan confirms it casually, saying it aligns with their goals too. He mentions hearing from an old villager that the Demon King's army is already causing chaos, and the guild member confirms it grimly, revealing humanity is facing an unprecedented crisis, even losing a major city recently. Alan responds like it's just another task he'll handle eventually, but tells them to schedule things properly next time instead of dragging him in like this. As he starts walking again, another guild member stops him once more and suggests he join a clan for faster progression, explaining that clans are organized adventurer groups and recommending an A rank one. In the next second, multiple guild members jump in trying to recruit him for their own clans, but Alan shuts it all down, saying he has no intention of joining any clan right now because he prefers complete freedom. The guild members accept it and tell him to contact them if he ever changes his mind. With that, Alan finally leaves the headquarters, while behind him the guild leaders admit he's an impossible man to read, and begins studying the gun in confusion, completely unable to understand how a crafter of his level could create something like this. Realizing it's beyond normal comprehension, they decide to call in the kingdom's top crafters and blacksmiths for a full analysis. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the entrance of the World Mine dungeon, where Alan has already arrived with a crowd of adventurers preparing to enter. The dungeon is an instance-type system, meaning each party gets their own separate space, avoiding competition over monsters. As Alan stands there, one adventurer approaches to recruit him into their party, but the moment they sense his level, they immediately back off and leave without another word, leaving Alan once again standing alone, ready to move forward on his own path. As one of the adventurers walks off, he warns Alan not to even think about entering the level 25 dungeon while being only level 15, but Alan barely reacts because honestly, he wouldn't be here in a low-tier zone at all if it wasn't for the level gap adjustment system. In this world, EXP gain is scaled based on enemy level difference, and the most efficient method is fighting monsters about 10 levels higher, which is exactly what Alan is aiming for. While moving through the area, Alan notices a tense situation nearby where a level 65 adventurer named Lucas is aggressively trying to force a level 20 girl, Emma, into his party, while she desperately refuses. Emma tries to escape, insisting she only wants a fair party with people around her own strength, but Lucas keeps pressuring her with fake promises of fast leveling while acting overly confident and creepy. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a strike lands and Lucas falls to the ground. Everyone is stunned to see this. Alan casually walks over and apologizes, saying it was just a crafting misfire while testing remote control mechanics, and Lucas immediately blows up in anger. Alan calmly doubles down, claiming he just wanted to test long-distance crafting, which only makes Lucas even more furious. Lucas draws his sword to strike, but the moment he checks Alan's level and sees he's only 15, he pauses. His companion mocks him for bullying someone weaker, so Lucas scoffs and sheaths his weapon, saying killing a weakling like Alan would just ruin his reputation. Instead, he arrogantly decides to spare Alan. Alan simply thanks him and turns away like nothing happened, but Emma quickly tries to thank Alan for stepping in, only for Alan to coldly clarify he wasn't trying to save her at all. As they walk off, Lucas suddenly stops them again, reminding them he never said he would let them leave. He then proposes a contest, a race to clear the dungeon, with the loser getting beaten badly by him. Emma immediately protests, calling it completely unfair given the massive level gap. Without hesitation, Alan accepts the challenge on the spot, even adding that he doesn't care about any prize at all. Lucas laughs confidently, convinced there is no 1 in a million chance of Alan winning anyway. Alan, unfazed, fires back with calm sarcasm, saying even if he does win against someone like Lucas, the prize probably wouldn't be worth much either. That final line snaps Lucas completely, while the dungeon atmosphere turns even more tense as the race is about to begin. Emma immediately tries to stop Alan, warning him that this dungeon is way too dangerous for someone at his level, but Alan stays calm and tells her not to worry because he already planned to hunt here from the beginning. Without hesitation, he starts walking toward the dungeon alone, which makes Lucas laugh and mock him for going solo, telling him to at least gather some weak party members. Alan fires back smoothly, pointing out that even a level 65 guy like Lucas still needs a gang to feel confident, instantly ticking Lucas off. But Alan doesn't bother sticking around for drama and keeps walking, saying he doesn't care how Lucas and his buddies operate. Just then, Emma rushes after him and sends a party invitation, insisting she wants to join him, but Alan casually declines, leaving her shocked. Still, Emma refuses to back down, saying she feels responsible for the situation and sends another invite. Seeing how stubborn she is, Alan finally gives in and accepts, making her visibly relieved and grateful. At the gate, Alan checks the dungeon world record clear time, 19 minutes and 12 seconds, and quietly decides he's going to beat it without any trouble. Inside the dungeon, the moment they enter, they are immediately ambushed by level 20 to 22 monsters. Emma gets nervous seeing the swarm and admits breaking through alone will already be hard, let alone reaching the boss. Alan stays relaxed and tells her these are just weak monsters, then suddenly tells her to put her staff away because she'll be fighting with him properly. Right after that, he crafts a set of machine guns with 135 attack power, 0-second reload capability, but heavy recoil, instantly shocking Emma at the sight of such an unknown weapon. Alan explains that only he can create weapons like this in the entire world, then quickly teaches her how to use it. Without wasting time, Alan starts mowing down monsters effortlessly while Emma watches in disbelief as entire waves fall in seconds. Slowly, she tries using the weapon too, but struggles to control the recoil, barely managing to keep it steady as the dungeon battle explodes into chaos around them. Alan calmly explains why he intentionally designed the recoil to be so high, saying that this dungeon is packed with enemies anyway, so even blind spraying will eventually hit something. Then without wasting time he announces that he's heading straight for the boss. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to Lucas and his party as they finally clear the first area, where one of his subordinates points out that this dungeon has a special mechanic where an extra boss appears on first clear runs, revealing that Lucas deliberately provoked Alan knowing this fact all along. Lucas laughs it off, admitting it openly, and confidently says Alan won't even survive long enough to reach the boss room, let alone pose a threat, adding that even though he wanted to kill Alan personally for disrespecting him, he's fine letting the dungeon do the job for him since the trap is already set. Back with Alan, he and Emma finally reach the deepest part of the dungeon much faster than expected, arriving at the boss area in under 10 minutes, which Emma nervously calls impressive, but Alan immediately points out that it would have been even faster if someone hadn't triggered unnecessary traps along the way, making Emma tear up as she apologizes and begs for mercy, saying it's her first time. Despite the tension, Alan has already gained 3 levels from the dungeon while Emma only gained 1, hinting at a strange experience distribution, possibly boosted by his earlier crafted weapon system and external EXP returns from his network. Emma quickly shakes off her embarrassment and urges Alan to hurry so they can finish the boss. They step into the final room and instantly face a shocking sight. 2 level 25 boss monsters appear at once, confirming the first clear special condition. Alan immediately recognizes them as werewolf-type bosses, known for extreme speed and evasion, meaning gunfire alone would be unreliable since they can easily dodge bullets, making them a terrible match for ranged weapons. He quickly tells Emma to provide suppressive fire to hold them back while he plans the next move. Emma starts firing, but just as Alan predicted, the werewolves weave through the bullets effortlessly while closing the distance at high speed, then split into 2 targets, making the situation even more dangerous. Alan assigns Emma to handle the queen werewolf while he takes the king, but as Emma watches the monsters easily evade her shots, she starts to panic, realizing they might actually lose. Just as the queen werewolf prepares to strike her down, Alan suddenly moves without hesitation and begins crafting mid-battle, setting up something unexpected to turn the tide at the last second. Alan had already read the battlefield perfectly, and just as the werewolves rushed in, he instantly crafted a jaw trap that snaps shut and locks both the queen and king werewolf in place, freezing them completely mid-attack. Even Emma is left stunned, unable to believe how they suddenly got immobilized, while Alan casually reminds her that he already told her to buy time so he could set this up. Emma can't hide her amazement as she realizes everything. Even that earlier clash with Lucas was actually a setup test to confirm he could craft remotely under pressure. With the monsters trapped and helpless, Alan walks straight up to the king werewolf and summons a handgun, firing without hesitation as it struggles uselessly against the restraints, turning what was once a deadly boss into an easy target as Alan finishes it off and collects its magic stone. At the same time, Emma manages to defeat the queen werewolf on her side and excitedly reports her victory, and right then the dungeon system announces a shocking result, a new world record clear time of 9 minutes and 48 seconds. Emma is thrilled hearing it, but Alan stays calm, already thinking ahead and quietly planning to return tomorrow to take the #1 record spot for himself. After clearing the dungeon, they head to the teleportation zone and return to the outside world, where Emma curiously asks about the guns, and Alan surprisingly hands them over to her as a gift without hesitation. Nearby adventurers recognize Alan as the same guy who had been clashing with Lucas earlier and assume he must have backed out of the raid and escaped early, even praising him for being smart enough to survive. But Alan calmly turns back and corrects them, saying they didn't retreat at all because they already cleared the dungeon. The adventurers burst out laughing, refusing to believe it and telling him to stop lying and just admit it, assuring him they won't report anything to Lucas. Still unconvinced, they tell Alan to prove it by checking the record crystal, but even while walking there they keep mocking him for being low-level with a supposedly useless crafter job. However, the moment they activate the record crystal, their expressions completely freeze in shock as Alan's claim is proven true, and one of them even stomps the ground in disbelief after realizing the impossible clear time is real. The entire group falls silent, stunned by the result, while Alan calmly observes their reaction and decides to give them a small demonstration, casually crafting submachine guns right in front of them to answer every doubt without saying another word. The adventurers are completely stunned after seeing Alan's strange weapons, but what shocks them even more is the raw attack power, which completely breaks the limits of normal crafted gear. Emma, trying to stay confident, starts bragging that the weapons are actually easy to use and begins demonstrating how they work, but in a sudden accident she accidentally pulls the trigger, sending bullets spraying everywhere as she panics in real time, leaving everyone frozen at the sheer uncontrollable firepower. The crowd quickly shifts from confusion to excitement, and one adventurer immediately tries to ask about Alan's identity, only to realize he has already left without a trace. For Alan, staying any longer is pointless, so he simply moves on without looking back. Among the crowd, a mysterious blue-haired woman silently watches him leave, her expression unreadable. Meanwhile, a few dozen minutes later, Lucas finally exits the dungeon with his group, loudly boasting that they nearly broke the 50-minute clear record, acting proud and arrogant as they sit outside to wait for Alan and Emma. Just then, an adventurer from earlier contacts Lucas and informs him that Alan and Emma have already left, instantly triggering Lucas's anger as he assumes they ran away, while his companions mock Alan for talking big and then escaping. But the adventurer corrects them again, dropping a bombshell that Alan and Emma actually cleared the dungeon. Lucas refuses to believe it, laughing it off as impossible, but the adventurer adds that they even set a new record clear time, which makes Lucas freeze before rushing toward the record crystal in disbelief, shouting that there is no way this could be real. However, the moment he checks the crystal, reality hits hard as he sees Alan and Emma cleared the dungeon in under 10 minutes while he took nearly an hour, leaving him completely shaken and unable to accept it, even as his companion tries to snap him out of it. At the same time, in a separate location, a man sits inside a quiet office studying Alan's profile with a serious expression, clearly disturbed by his rapid rise in strength, and without hesitation, he orders an assassin to eliminate Alan, offering a massive reward, signaling that Alan's growing power has now drawn attention from far more dangerous forces. Outside the city, Emma sincerely thanks Alan for everything he did for her, still clearly on edge knowing Lucas might retaliate at any moment, so she decides to temporarily relocate her base. Alan casually offers to teach Lucas a lesson so he won't bother her again, but Emma refuses right away, not wanting to rely on him forever and trying to keep her pride intact. They part ways, and just as Alan is leaving, Emma suddenly calls out from behind, half panicked but determined, telling him not to break the record in Wolf's Tunnel because she also wants her name written in history. Alan simply smiles, agrees not to touch the record, and keeps walking, while Emma cheers him on and tells him to party up with her again if they ever meet in the future. A few days later, Alan heads to a remote location to test out his crafting abilities, focusing on something that could massively improve his future efficiency. He successfully crafts a full tank and even climbs inside to examine the control system, confirming he can perfectly recreate its structure. When he tries to move it, nothing happens, and he quickly realizes why. There's no fuel source. He understands that while Crafter can reproduce anything as long as the structure is known, there are limits, especially for rare resources like water, electricity, or gasoline. But Alan already anticipated this issue and begins thinking of a workaround. In the world of ZFO, magic stones are widely used as a universal energy source, so Alan theorizes that if he uses them as fuel, the tank should function. However, After only a few steps of operation, the magic stone shatters, forcing Alan to exit the tank and conclude that its current power output is too unstable for something that large. He realizes he needs higher-grade magic stones for heavy machinery, but confirms that magic stones can indeed be used as an energy source. Shifting his focus, Alan decides to test something smaller and crafts a voice recognition drone, attaching a magic stone to see how far it can operate. He commands it to record everything in the surroundings, and the drone immediately activates and flies off, confirming his idea works, which makes Alan satisfied as he even starts thinking about upgrading it into a combat unit by replacing the camera with weapons. When the drone returns, Alan creates a tablet to review the footage, but while watching, he suddenly notices 5 individuals observing him from a distance. Instantly alert, he wonders if they are Lucas's men from the Wolf Dungeon incident, but quickly realizes their killing intent feels far stronger than simple thugs. Deciding not to wait, Alan chooses to confront them directly, crafting a submachine gun as he begins walking toward their location. Meanwhile, the hidden group of assassins notices Alan approaching and start questioning whether he has actually detected them, though some of them confidently dismiss the idea, believing it impossible since they are level 65 elite assassins trained in top-tier stealth. Alan's prediction turns out to be completely accurate as he casually states that all 5 assassins are hiding in the area, instantly breaking their confidence in stealth. Shocked, one assassin immediately reports to their boss, but the response is simple and cold: eliminate him. Another assassin hesitates for a moment, pointing out that Alan is holding a gun that fires faster than anything they've seen, but the boss dismisses it completely, claiming the weapon poses no threat because it cannot harm humans. Reassured, the group grows confident again, even laughing at Alan being only level 24, calling him an easy target, though the boss still warns them not to underestimate him since he is their assigned objective. Without wasting time, Alan calls out and tells them to show themselves, and all 5 finally reveal their positions around him. Alan immediately questions their purpose for spying, and the assassin leader calmly replies that they are here to eliminate him before instantly vanishing again using high-level stealth techniques. Alan smirks, raises his submachine gun, and quietly praises his choice of a rapid-fire weapon. The assassin boss still believes guns are useless against humans, but the moment he speaks again, Alan reacts instantly, shooting directly toward the sound and landing a clean hit, then immediately sweeping through the remaining assassins in a rapid burst of fire, taking them all down in seconds. Only the boss remains, completely stunned, as Alan points the gun at him and warns him to come up with a better strategy if he plans to fight someone using a submachine gun. The boss, still in disbelief, repeats that guns should not work on humans, but Alan quickly pieces everything together, realizing their misunderstanding, and explains that he originally designed the weapon with restrictions so it wouldn't harm humans, but since they clearly posed a threat, he removed that limitation for this case. With the gun now fully lethal, Alan presses it against the boss and demands to know why they were targeting him. The assassin calmly replies that they only follow orders and eliminate targets as part of their job, and when Alan asks who hired them since he doesn't recall making enemies, the assassin admits that Alan may not have offended anyone, but he has become too strong, and someone powerful sees him as a threat. Before Alan can press further, the assassin suddenly drinks poison and collapses. Left standing alone, Alan walks forward in thought, wondering why anyone would fear a level 24 crafter like him. Just then, a mysterious woman appears, calmly praising him for defeating veteran assassins. Alan turns sharply, questioning her identity and whether she is associated with the attackers, but she immediately denies any connection, stating she is on his side. It is then revealed that she is the same mysterious blue-haired woman who had been observing Alan back in the Wolf Dungeon. The mysterious blue-haired woman calmly suggests that Alan should team up with her, saying it would be a beneficial deal for both sides, but Alan instantly shuts it down, declaring that he will never form a party with anyone. She exhales in frustration and tells him to stop being so hostile, then drops a serious hint that she already has an idea who hired the assassins. Alan immediately becomes interested and asks her to explain, but before answering, she first confirms if he is the same Alan who recently broke the all-time speed record in the Wolf Dungeon. Alan arrogantly brings up his status panel, questioning why she even needs to ask when she could just check it herself, which only annoys her as she points out that his stats are hidden. Realizing the issue, Alan casually adjusts his privacy settings and apologizes, allowing her to finally see his information. Once confirmed, she verifies his name, but is left completely shocked when she discovers he is only level 24. thinking she must have misjudged him earlier and never expected someone at his level to move like that. Alan then asks her to show her own status in return, and she reveals herself as Melissa, a level 50 sorcerer. After the exchange, Alan repeats his question about who ordered the assassination, but Melissa explains she can only share that information in exchange for a favor. Alan quickly understands she is negotiating and asks what she wants. She points toward the distant Crystal Sky Castle dungeon floating in the sky, explaining that it is not just any dungeon, but a high-risk zone with extreme difficulty even within its level range. It is filled with unpredictable monster spawns, deadly traps, and even veteran adventurers can die instantly if they lose focus. Deep inside it lies the Crystal Dragon, a boss on an entirely different tier from anything else in the region. Hearing all this, Alan bluntly asks if she expects him to clear the dungeon, and Melissa clarifies that she only wants the dragon orb drop in exchange for the information. She admits it is a top-tier material suited for someone of her level, and then cautiously asks if they have a deal, secretly worried she may have asked for something impossible from a level 24 adventurer. However, she is shocked again when Alan immediately agrees without hesitation. Nervous, she tries to warn him that the dungeon is deadly and requires at least level 50, but Alan calmly responds that he already knows more about that dungeon than she does, because in his previous life, he has cleared it multiple times. He admits he is not exactly excited about doing errands for her, but eliminating the person who placed a hit on him also helps him level up without interference. Melissa finally agrees and steps forward to shake his hand, but Alan ignores it and tells her to head to the dungeon immediately, which instantly irritates her. She then explains the first major obstacle, reaching the Crystal Sky Castle itself, since it is suspended in the sky and requires approval from the royal government along with a special transfer spell just to access it. For Alan, this whole situation is completely new territory because in ZFO, reaching places like this was as simple as talking to an NPC and getting teleported instantly. But Melissa quickly shuts that idea down, explaining that Alan doesn't even meet the requirements for the transfer spell needed to reach the floating Crystal Sky Castle. To his surprise, she reveals the condition is strict. Only players level 40 and above can undergo the spell, and since Alan is just level 24, he's completely locked out. Alan sighs and asks why she even brought up his level in the first place if it was such a problem, which only irritates Melissa as she snaps back that she wouldn't have suggested the plan at all if she had known. Moving on, Alan asks about the second issue, and Melissa explains it clearly. If they want any chance of surviving the dungeon, they need a proper party composition with a tank to absorb damage, a healer for support and buffs, and a high DPS attacker. She admits that as a sorcerer, she mainly deals AoE damage, so her effectiveness against a single boss is limited. She then suggests that their top priority should be leveling Alan up to at least 40, estimating it would take around 3 months of grinding, and she's not in a rush. But Alan instantly rejects the idea, saying he doesn't have time for that since his goal is to reach level 999 first in the world, so wasting months on basic training is out of the question. Melissa finds his ambition unrealistic and tells him to be practical, reminding him that reaching level 40 is the only way to access the transfer spell. Even Alan acknowledges she is technically right, but he starts thinking about how to reach a location suspended so high in the sky without relying on the system. After a brief pause, he comes up with a solution and confidently tells her they don't need the transfer spell at all. Melissa is confused and asks how else they could possibly get there, so Alan decides to show her instead of explaining. He begins crafting a drone, embedding a magic stone into it, and instantly the device activates and starts hovering in the air, shocking Melissa as she asks if it is powered by magic stones. Alan casually explains it's called a drone, and then commands it to fly straight toward the Crystal Sky Castle. Melissa watches in excitement as the drone follows his command perfectly, and while it physically seems capable of reaching the castle, she worries there might be a barrier protecting the area. Moments later, the drone successfully lands on the castle itself without any resistance, confirming there is no barrier blocking entry. Shocked, Melissa asks if this means they can actually reach it without the spell, even suggesting they could build a larger version of the drone to carry them, and then go back to town to recruit more members. But Alan immediately shuts that down, saying only the 2 of them are enough for this job. Melissa is still confused, but Alan confidently claims that he alone is enough to clear the entire dungeon. That level of confidence makes her question where his certainty even comes from. She then pushes the idea of building a giant transport drone again, but Alan refuses, explaining that its fuel efficiency would be terrible and they would likely crash before even reaching halfway. Now fully confused, Melissa asks what his real plan is to reach the castle, and Alan calmly reveals that he intends to use something completely different from magic stones altogether. When Melissa asks what kind of new energy Alan plans to use, he casually drops a bombshell, saying it's her. That immediately shocks her, but Alan calmly explains that sorcerers can manipulate multiple attributes of magic, and they will use that elemental magic as the actual power source. Melissa is completely confused, so Alan decides not to over-explain and simply starts crafting a hot air balloon on the spot, saying they will use it to fly to the castle instead. Without wasting time, he tells her to get on and begin the test. Still puzzled, Melissa asks what she's supposed to do, and Alan instructs her to use wind magic to inflate the balloon. She follows his command, and the balloon slowly fills and takes shape. Then Alan tells her to heat the air inside using a low-cost spell, Flame Hand, to keep mana consumption efficient. Melissa activates the spell, her arms engulfed in controlled flames as the air inside the balloon warms up, and within seconds the entire structure starts lifting off the ground, leaving her completely stunned. As they rise toward the floating castle, Alan warns her not to let the flame die out until they arrive, because if the air cools and pressure drops, they will fall straight down. That warning instantly freaks her out, and she complains that he should have mentioned the danger earlier, also worrying that she might run out of mana mid-flight. Alan confidently reassures her that it won't be an issue because he will handle all combat inside the dungeon himself. Even though she knows he is only level 24, after witnessing his absurd methods, she can't help but start trusting his confidence, slowly believing they might actually clear this dungeon. They finally arrive safely at the entrance of the Crystal Sky Castle dungeon, though Melissa looks slightly exhausted from maintaining the spell, pretending she is fine while clearly drained. Inside, they find multiple adventurer parties already gathered, and Alan recalls that this is an open dungeon where competition exists, and Melissa confirms that if another party clears it first, all others will be forcibly ejected and forced to restart. Without hesitation, Alan immediately starts running, saying they need to clear it before anyone else gets ahead, deciding to leave lower monsters to the other parties while they push straight for progression. As they sprint forward, Melissa explains the dungeon structure, mentioning 3 layers, and that they need 3 reward crystals to move from the lower floor to the middle floor, but Alan interrupts mid-explanation and casually describes the first floor mechanics in detail, leaving her shocked and asking how he already knows all this. Alan simply replies that he can tell her, but not for free, instantly reminding her of how she used the same line on him earlier, flipping the situation back on her. They then reach a battlefield where minotaurs are surrounded by multiple adventurer teams, and Melissa identifies the monster as level 45, suggesting they skip it and move to another floor. But Alan refuses, saying there is no time to waste, and walks straight toward the crowd, demanding the others hand over the boss if they're just going to stall it. The surrounding adventurers instantly get angry at his attitude, but the moment they notice Alan's level is only 24, they burst into laughter, completely underestimating him as the situation is about to turn. The surrounding adventurers scoff at Alan, assuming he is just all talk and won't even be able to scratch the boss monster. But in the end, they still clear a path for him out of curiosity. As Alan walks forward, the boss immediately locks onto him and prepares to strike once he enters its range, making Melissa panic as she tells him to wait so she can recover her mana and support him instead. But Alan has no intention of waiting or fighting with help. Without hesitation, he takes out the sandworm magic stone and begins crafting on the spot, forming a rocket launcher with an insane attack power of 14,500. Melissa is stunned just reading the stats, but Alan casually corrects her, saying that with modifiers it can exceed 30,000, leaving her completely speechless. Before the boss can even attack, Alan fires once, triggering a massive explosion that wipes out the monster instantly in a single hit. The entire battlefield freezes as the adventurers who mocked him moments ago are left in total shock, unable to process what they just saw. Melissa herself is stunned, trying to ask what exactly he just did, while Alan calmly thinks that he might not even need the sandworm magic stone for future fights. They secure the first reward crystal, meaning only 2 remain, and Alan immediately grabs the magic stone and starts running toward the next objective. As they move, Melissa is still processing how a crafter, a job considered useless in her world, just one-shot a boss-level monster like it was nothing. Soon they arrive at the lower floor abyss corridor of the Crystal Sky Castle, a critical passage they must clear to obtain the remaining crystals. Melissa assumes they are stuck because the path looks broken, but Alan calmly explains that the floor is not actually destroyed, It's completely transparent, and if they step correctly they can cross safely, but one wrong move means instant death. He also notes that the standard strategy is to probe the ground with a staff to reveal safe spots. But if they do that here, other parties will copy it, and it will turn into chaos and competition. Melissa then suggests building a bridge, but Alan shuts it down, saying if that were possible, people would have already used flight magic to bypass it long ago. She tries to test her magic anyway, only to realize she cannot use any skills or spells here at all, instantly understanding that this area restricts abilities. For the first time, she admits they might actually be stuck, but Alan calmly tells her there is still another way to get through. Even though Alan can't use his crafting skills directly in this area, he still has access to his inventory, so he calmly pulls out a pre-made gadget while explaining that it's all about preparing things in advance. Curious, Melissa asks what it is, and Alan reveals it's a night vision scope made using evil bat magic stones, a device that allows him to see through the transparent floor. Melissa is impressed but confused, asking when he even had time to make something like this, and Alan casually replies that he built it while she was distracted by the hot air balloon ride. That answer leaves her silent, quietly realizing that even though she doesn't fully understand the dungeon's mechanics, Alan is always one step ahead. Alan equips the device, activates night vision, and instantly the invisible paths become clear, letting him see the safe route perfectly. Without hesitation, he grabs Melissa, making her instantly blush in surprise as she yells what he is doing, but Alan simply says it's safer this way and starts sprinting forward. Melissa, still flustered and half panicking, tells him to slow down and be careful, but Alan ignores her complaints and confidently moves across what looks like open air. The other adventurers watching are stunned, unable to believe he is running across nothing as if it were solid ground, while Melissa continues crying out for him to be more careful. Before long, they reach the next gate, where the path splits into two directions. Melissa asks which way to go, and Alan calmly explains that both routes are correct and each leads to a crystal at the deepest point. She immediately suggests splitting up, but Alan notices her tone and asks if she is angry, which only makes her snap at him to shut up. Still, Alan decides against splitting because he figures it would be dangerous if she gets killed, and when he casually adds that he needs her alive for information about the assassination, she gets even more annoyed, but agrees to stay together anyway. They continue forward until they reach the corridor of condemnation, a deadly path where a single mistake means instant death from the massive drop below. As Melissa worries about how to proceed, Alan simply starts crafting a tool, saying they just need to break through the mechanism. Since skills and magic are now usable again, Melissa joins in and begins attacking the traps, helping clear the way. After surviving the corridor, they arrive at the Chamber of Precipices, a strange area with unfamiliar walls and the crystal positioned high above. Alan tells Melissa to touch the wall, and when she does, she immediately reacts in disgust, saying it's slippery and strange, then angrily asks why she had to test it. Thinking quickly, she suggests using crafting to scale the wall without directly touching it, and Alan actually praises her for once, saying she finally understands how versatile a crafter can be. Melissa activates her fire hand skill, getting ready to push upward, and suggests a simple plan: just have Alan craft a hot air balloon so they can fly straight to the top of the wall. But Alan instantly rejects the idea and instead crafts a lift designed specifically for vertical movement. Once they step inside, he activates it and calmly explains that it can transport both people and objects straight upward without any effort. Within seconds, they reach the top of the wall and secure the second crystal, leaving only one left to collect. Without wasting time, Alan heads toward the next objective, and they soon arrive at the Poison Swamp Chamber, a deadly lake of toxic swamp water where even a single touch can inflict severe status effects. Hearing this, Melissa nervously asks what kind of crafting solution he has planned this time, and Alan casually begins crafting again, but instead of something flashy, he produces a simple wooden board. Melissa is stunned, expecting another overpowered invention, but Alan calmly explains that not everything needs to be complicated and a basic boat will do the job. She looks disappointed but still steps on board, only to realize there are no oars or paddles. Alan then tells her she becomes the engine, leaving her confused, until she realizes he expects her to use wind magic to move them forward. Slightly annoyed but cooperating, Melissa uses her wind magic to propel the boat, while complaining about how much effort it takes, and Alan silently lets her handle it as they cross the swamp. Soon they arrive safely and obtain the third crystal, completing the set. Melissa, now relieved, admits she never thought they would actually clear these challenges so smoothly, but Alan simply replies that this is normal since crafter is the strongest job. As he continues walking toward the next area, Melissa silently realizes that it isn't just the class that is strong, it is Alan himself, and despite knowing him for only a short time, she becomes certain that he is someone destined to leave his name in history. A few minutes later, they reach the transfer chamber of the lower floor where the crystals must be placed into a pedestal to move to the middle floor. With everything nearing completion, Melissa finally asks how Alan never gets lost, commenting that it feels like he already knows every corner of the castle. Alan casually replies that he is staking his life on it, and they activate the transfer, teleporting to the entrance of the middle floor. Upon arrival, Alan recalls that the middle floors function as instance-based dungeons, while Melissa comments on how strange it feels to have a portal inside a dungeon. Alan compares it to a matryoshka doll, and when she doesn't understand, he promises to explain it properly later if he remembers after clearing the castle. As Alan prepares to move forward, Melissa suddenly stops him and unexpectedly suggests they have a match before continuing the raid.